Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel. It has been a little while. I have had nothing but problems over the past couple of weeks here. Mostly hardware issues. But we've got that mostly sorted out. So, welcome back to Mechwarrior 5. Of course, I am Desbon. And we're going to do something a little different today. I realized, after talking to my wife, that I just kind of leapt into Mechwarrior 5 without any real explanation of how the menus work, or really anything that's going on. So if you already know about how Mechwarrior works, if you ever played any of the games in the series, you kind of get an idea of what's going on, but for those who are completely new to the series, I'm going to do a little rundown here on exactly how everything works. And this is going to be a recurring series, so every time I start a new game, like a new game series, I will make a video in this line, which I'm affectionately referring to as, what the heck is even that? So, starting off here, this is actually the room that you start in the main campaign. This is my personal room inside the Leopard dropship. That right there being a Leopard dropship. But yeah, so this is just the commander's room. I could use these computers to change stuff. This whole on-foot first-person section is pretty much relegated mostly to like the main campaign, the story mode basically. For the purposes of this playthrough that I'm recording, it's pretty much just going to be used to eyeball the mechs. A nice feature in this is if they take battle damage in the course of a mission, it will show up on these models, which is nice. I might occasionally have a couple of missions where I might need to speak with individual people, like her, the pilot, or the technician who's down there somewhere. Well, in any case, somewhere around here there's a technician. Oh, I think he's down there. Yeah, that's him. Hello. So I might have a couple of missions where I need to speak to them in between, but I don't think there's going to be very much outside of maybe a couple of the DLC stuff. And I suppose on that note I can go ahead and mention this playthrough is going to be mostly spoiler-free. I'm not following any of the main campaign stuff, but I'm not going to be avoiding DLC content. Like, I'm not actively seeking it out, because the DLC stuff does tend to be a little overpowered, but I'm not going to avoid it either. If it just kind of naturally comes my way, then I might take it. So, minor spoiler alerts. Like I said, I might do some DLC stuff, so if you're interested in a blind playthrough of this game, maybe don't watch the series. Yeah, so that's pretty much the extent of this section of the game. As I said, it's mostly just to look at your toys. So we'll go into the primary screen where we do everything, which is this right here, the cockpit of the Leopard. I'll do a quick rundown of everything on the screen. We'll come back to this section over here later. So, starting up here, this just shows me what my current active mission objective is. So for this particular one, it's just saying, hey, once you reach Mercenary level 4, you'll get access to cantinas and jobs, which I will discuss more in detail when we actually get to that section, like when we get there. So over here, I can figure, it shows me where I'm at, the condition of it, whether it's like an industrial hub or conflict zone or just a system in the middle of nowhere with nothing going on. different conflict zones have different repair penalties. So where I'm at right now, it's just a 35% increase in time and 25% increase in cost. Some of the more intense conflict zones, that can go up to 200 or 300%. So things can get really expensive and take forever, depending on where you're at. There are actually times where it's more cost efficient to travel to a different system to start your repairs. So once again, I'll cover all this later. Down here, we have a quick rundown of the timeline. So in 8 days, I'll have a guy getting out of the med bay, and in 37 days, I have to pay my bills. And then down here, I have a news ticker, which just kind of tells me, everything that's going on in the headlines. Up here is my current money, how much I have all in all. Next step down shows me how much I have to pay. I think it's a quarterly payment, so every 90 days, or no, not 90. Yeah, I think it's 90. And then down here is my mercenary rank, which just determines it determines sort of like the quality of contracts that I can get. Some people don't want to deal with mercenaries under a certain rank, and then the higher my rank, the more leverage I have in negotiating. So we'll look at the next tab here, the battle mechs. So up here in the active hangar, we have the current lance, which a lance is just a group of 4 mechs. That's sort of how they're deployed on the battlefield. Usually it's on a lance, although you can sometimes go less than 4, or I suppose more. But standard battle mech arrangement is 4 mechs. The cool thing about the active hangar is this is what you see in the on-foot section inside the Leopard. So if I move the Enforcer up here, then he'll be showing up in one of those hangars instead of these guys. We'll look over here real quick. So the work orders tab, if I have something going on, it'll show up over here. So like if my locus here was getting repaired or having parts replaced, or if I was swapping out lasers for something different, it would show up over here as a work order, where I could then cancel it if I decided I didn't want it or stuff like that. The cold storage is basically where I can store mechs that I'm not using. So you see right here this storage cost. I'm spending 15,000 C-bills every pay period just to have these spaces available. And then on top of that, any battle mechs I have down here are going to be costing additional money for upkeep. So these guys over here are basically, powered up, engine running, ready to go, hop in and off you trot. Over here in the cold storage, I don't have to pay for any of that. There's no upkeep cost. It strips all the weapons and equipment out of the mech, so it's just an empty chassis hanging out waiting to be reactivated. So there's no cost attached to it, but it's not immediately available, because upon removing it from cold storage, obviously I have to install all of the parts back, which costs money and time. There is a cheaty sort of way to get equipment, which is if I get a mech that has, like a bunch of weapons that I want, I could just drop it into cold storage, and that would immediately, at no cost and no time delay, strip all the equipment out into my inventory. I'm not going to do that on this playthrough because I feel like it's too cheaty. So if I salvage a battle mech and I want some parts off of it, I'm going to do it from the regular screen, where it's going to cost me money and time before I can sell it. So we'll come down here and look at some of the other features. So the loadout screen is where you customize your mechs. You can see I've got an autocannon and a couple of lasers in this guy in different locations. So they're color-coded based on what you can put in them. So these purple are ballistic. You see, if I remove that, I have a medium ballistic spot. I cannot put a laser in a ballistic spot. and I can't put ballistics in laser spots. Also, you'll notice there are different sizes: medium, large, small. So that determines what I can put in it. So this medium energy slot, I can put a medium laser or a small laser. But the large energy spot, I can fit large lasers as well. So different sizes of spots will give you different options for loadouts. Obviously, I can't cram a giant laser into a tiny little slot, but I can easily fit a tiny laser into a huge spot. Revert that so it doesn't. And then over here in the Details tab, you can see a lot more information on how the mech is loaded out, down to where heat sinks are and ammunition placement, jump jets, and all that. So I can, if for example I notice that this battle mech is running hot more often than not, I can, strip out some things to make some weight and then add in more heat sinks, which will help get rid of some of that heat. There's a lot of customization in BattleTech, even with the limited slot sizes and what you can put. That's one of my favorite things about this series. And then if you have additional weight left over, like if I was to, say I don't want to jump, I can pull all these jump jets out. And now I've got 2 tons of free space. I could, if I wanted to, put that in armor. And you can distribute that however you want. And then, of course, add extra parts if I needed. So, a lot of customization available, a lot of balancing as far as, if you run hot but you don't take damage, you can strip armor off to get more heat sinks. If you find you're always running out of ammo, you can remove things to put more ammo in. Conversely, if you find you always have way too much ammo, you can always strip some ammo out to free up more weight. Parts can be sorted, obviously, and all that nonsense, but we're not going to super worry about that right now. So then, paint mech, you've already seen me utilize that. You just change your paint schemes however you want. Yeah, I didn't want to do that. Upgrades comes from the Cantina missions. Every battle mech has a certain number of slots you can put an upgrade in. As you do the Cantina jobs, which are like, collect this many battle mechs of this type, or destroy this many whatevers, or collect this many weapons, various things like that. As I complete those, I will start acquiring upgrades that can do things like increase ballistic damage, or reduce the amount of sorry, my dog was growling at something outside. I can reduce the amount of heat I build up for specific weapon types, things like that. So upgrades can be very useful, but they are very expensive, both in time and money to equip. And you can only have so many per mech, and you have to unlock them to begin with. And then weapon groups allows me to determine what button on the mouse is going to fire which weapons. So you can group them based on location or heat output. I usually kind of group them based on what they're for. So, long-range weapons or heavy-hitting weapons, I just kind of group them based on what I'm dealing with. The star map is the main world of the game. So every one of these different colors represents a different faction. As time progresses, the borders will, change, expand, shrink. If you notice, we've got these little highlighted sections. These are all conflict zones. So I'm right here at Bramond, which is in the Mercenary Row conflict zone. This one over here is the Apex Mining Syndicate conflict zone. So the different conflict zones are where you're going to find most of your missions at. You don't really see missions over, like, in between conflict zones. Like, little icons here give me an idea of what I can find in the area. Like where I'm at right now, you've got a black market and then 2 different missions, and I can get a quick glance at what those missions are. These dotted line here are industrial zones, or industrial hubs they call them. Anything connected by these is going to have a 0 cost, or 0% increase for cost and time. So it doesn't matter, if there's an industrial zone or industrial hub that's in a conflict zone, it's not going to be any extra time or money to repair stuff, because they've, industrial hubs are going to have the parts and the people to actually fix the stuff. Industrial hubs are usually home to arenas, where instead of fighting for the houses to fight their wars for them, you're just a gladiator fighting for sport. Arena contracts have their own separate reputation attached to them. A lot of fun bonuses and stuff. And that's pretty much the main meat and potatoes of the map screen. You also have these little blue icons, which are training centers, so I can take my pilots and send them to an academy to learn a little more. And they can get perks and bonuses and stuff. And that's the main meat and potatoes of the map, other than you notice when there's traveling, it takes a certain amount of days and a certain amount of time to travel. And the further you go, the longer it takes, and the more expensive it becomes, up to a certain point where you are no longer able to travel in a single run. So here we go. 76 days and 500,000 C-bills is the limit for a single period of travel, which is not insignificant. The equipment tab is basically the store. This is all the stuff that's available. Because it is a black market, there's a little bit of stuff that's kind of rare, a little more expensive because of it, and because where I'm at likes me, it's a little bit of a discount, so less of a markup ultimately. But this is where I can buy new equipment for my stuff. I usually like to take a look at the market when I first get somewhere. If it's got a lot of, high-level equipment, I tend to buy it outright. Which equipment level is noted by these little pips above the name. Here's a good example. These 2 heavy rifles. This one is a level 1 heavy rifle. This is a level 2. If you look at their stats, this one deals 18 damage. This one deals 18.9 damage. This one shoots 6.3 rounds a minute. This one's an even 6. 10 heat for this. 9.5. So the higher level weapons are just overall better. They tend to have more damage, higher rate of fire, less heat, more range. They are just in every way superior to the lower level ones. Which is why if I see something that's like, 4 or 5 levels, I'm going to buy it almost guaranteed. And then of course you can get equipment, more heat sinks and whatnot, and everything can be sorted. I can sell surplus items here as well. And these little icons over here at the far side of the item name just denotes where it came from. So like this is from the Solaris DLC, this is from the Heroes of the Inner Sphere DLC. Just a little icon to notate. Then over on the mech market, it's just like the shop. You can purchase battle mechs that have been salvaged. 90% of the time they're going to be in this sort of condition, where he's totally unusable. Obviously there's a little bit of a discount for them not being in good shape, but you still end up having to spend a fair bit to repair them afterwards. If they was in brand new shape, it'd be a lot more than 3 million C-bills. And then anything that I sell will also show up over here. So if I salvage a bunch of mechs and sell them, I can always turn around and buy them back if I change my mind. The barracks, not sure why I pronounced it like that. The barracks is where the pilots obviously are going to be located. So these are all my pilots that I have. Let's take a look at this one. So you can see he's injured. He's got 8 days before he's cleared for duty. He's got different skills that just increase the amount of damage that he does per type of weapon. And then he's got shield or skills down here for piloting skills, you know, reducing the amount of damage, being able to manage his heat better, and being able to avoid enemy fire, which really just makes the AI worse at aiming. There's no active dodge or anything. And then, you know, if he has any traits and how much it's going to cost to keep him retained. Over here in the pilot hire, I can hire new pilots, and this right here is a good example.
Commander, I'll be in the hangar for pre-drop checklists.
So this guy has a trait. He's a hypochondriac, which means he's slightly more likely to get injured. And then you notice it's cheaper to keep him around because that negative trait. Different pilots can acquire traits, usually through the academies, unless they just come with them like this guy does. The traits can range anywhere from specifically, you know, they do better damage with autocannons instead of just ballistic, all the way down to specific, you know, this one particular style of mech they are better at piloting. So they kind of run the gamut over what they can do. If I was to hire this guy, it would cost me 163 C-bills outright just to hire him, and then I'd have to pay him another 10,000 every cycle. So that's kind of how that works. There's multiple costs involved. And then the operations is just kind of the catch-all for everything else. So this right here is the cantina stuff, the cantina jobs. So these right here are the different types of missions as far as collecting a certain number of weapons or a certain number of battle mechs, or, you know, kill this particular mech, find this item for me. And then as I do those, as I level up, we'll get these. These are the whatever they're called, the perks, what I call them. And you see they can do things like this one lets my mech jump a little longer. All the way up here, this gives me a little extra armor. This right here reduces the heat my energy weapons put out, reduces missile spread. So there's a variety of everything. Really customize the battle mechs to make them a little more specific to how you want to use them. Stats just gives me the quick outline as far as, you know, net worth, how much I'm spending on my pilots and my mechs. This is my mercenary rank up here, my arena rank down here. Faction standings is exactly what it sounds like. You can see, you know, how much people like you or how much they hate you, which will determine the success of negotiations. The objective logs we already looked at, and then achievements, which do not transfer between saves. So I'll be acquiring achievements throughout this playthrough, even though I've already gotten them on my main game. And this takes us back to here, where we started. So we'll look at these tabs now. The black market just takes me to the market. This is just basically a solid reminder that, hey, you can find better stuff here. Hire pilots is the same thing. Not every system is going to have pilots for hire, so when there is a hiring hall, they note it here with a little icon just to make sure you notice, hey, you can get people. The news tab is going to bring up, you know, we have the little news ticker at the bottom. This is the actual articles. For the most part, I don't really care what these are talking about. Like, yeah, you'll get a lot of information about, you know, front lines changing, generous stuff like this, or general stuff like this, where it's just talking about, you know, these people fought off this place and, you know, we'll do it again. No one cares. The important stuff is like this, where the New Avalon Institute of Science is open, which means if I head to New Avalon, I think I can actually put my people in the academy there. And more importantly, this. So this right here is telling me the Commando 1B was in production. So before June 4th of 3015, the Commando 1B did not exist. Now that this article is released, it does exist. So I can use the, just looking at this article here tells me, okay, cool, I can start seeing this particular variant of the Commando out in the field now. And they'll make articles like this for weapons being introduced. See if there's anything else. Nope. So that's the only major thing, but you get things like this right here, where, Merrick declares war on Brother, and it's okay, so now I know that there's going to be a battlefield in, the House Merrick region, the Free Worlds League. This right here, hey look, there's an academy in this area. Like, just little information like that. And then a lot of fluff, like this right here, just talking about, this former unit creates an all-female mercenary unit. Is that important for the game? No, but it's lore accurate and just a little interesting little thing. So, the news is kind of interesting. I'm usually going to skip over it for the most part because I'm mostly interested in when mechs and equipment come on market. Star map just is a shortcut to the star map. Timeline is a little more in-depth version of the timeline down in the corner. Just tells me what date things are going to happen. And we have the contracts, which is the real meat and potatoes of the game. So I can look through the different contracts I have. They'll show me who I'm working for, who I'm going up against, a little bit of information about them. I'm going to be going with this one because they like me. And it's an infiltration mission, which is going to be a little more interesting. So, it's got a limit for tonnage, which I don't super care about, and we'll touch on that in a little bit. Gives me some information, like data that they have for it, as far as what I'm doing, which is targeting enemy mechs, stealing supplies, and generally being sneaky. And then, like down here I can see how long it's going to take. So that's doing 37 days. If I take this mission, it's going to be doing 27 days, because it's going to take us 10 days to, get there and do our briefing and actually perform the mission and get back. And then, I know it's going to be in a jungle, I know it's going to be morning, and I know it's going to be super foggy. We'll then take this. This is the negotiation screen. So you see it's friendly +2. That means that's this here, the negotiation points. Because my mercenary unit is so small and unknown, I only really start with one negotiation point. Because these guys know me, they're willing to deal with me a little better. So I could put those points in any one of these. C-bill just is exactly what it sounds like. It gives me a little extra money for taking that. I can only take 1 point in it, so I'm going to do that. Salvage shares is exactly what that sounds like. The more you negotiate for salvage, the more salvage you can get at the end of the mission, assuming there is any. And the way salvage works is it weights shares to the value of the equipment. So like a medium laser is only going to be worth 1 or 2 shares, whereas an entire battle mech is going to be worth 20 or 30 shares. So like with that one contract negotiation, I can get up to 7 shares of salvage. Well, that's not going to be anything big. Like, I'm definitely not going to be walking out with a battle mech. Then damage coverage is basically just insurance. They're not going to pay me this 50,000 unless I take damage. If I take, 20,000 C-bills worth of damage, they'll pay me 20,000 out of this. If I take, 700,000 C-bills worth of damage, they'll pay me the full 5,000. It's just extra insurance that they don't have to pay. And then airstrike support. Some missions permit airstrikes. I don't normally use them. They're very inaccurate, and a lot of times the battlefield changes so quickly it's almost impossible to actually take out an enemy with it. We'll confirm. This is the...
weather conditions means you'll be dealing with limited visibility and compromised sensors on this mission.
Right, so as I was saying, this is the ready screen where we can just, put pilots to mechs. So I'm going to swap myself into that spider because it has jump jets, and we're going to swap this guy out with them just to make sure I've got someone who can use, because remember, the other guy was injured and needed 8 days to recover. If I kept him in here, it would have been 8 days before we could start. So this here is who we're taking into the field with us. We'll go ahead and ready up and get going.
Commander, I've dropped
that's
you
what I
right
was waiting
on the
for.
front line with hostile forces. Our client is requesting a meet at a small border checkpoint up ahead regarding our assignment here. Report to the marked position on your map.
Alright, so this is the cockpit of our battle mech. All of the mechs in this game have their own unique cockpits that are individually modeled, which is a great touch. I love it. So this is my spider. So I guess we'll start in the top left corner. That is my lance composition. I can get a quick glance and see how people are doing based on a little health bar. And there's some icons next to them that tells me what they're doing. So I can use the F1 through 4 keys on the keyboard here to order different people. I'm going to tell them to hold fire. So you see the F2, F3, F4, I can order my people individually to do things, or I can use F1 to tell them to do everything, or tell everyone to do something rather. Normally I'm using that to tell everyone to focus their fire on my target, that way we can kill it faster. In this particular case, I'm telling everyone to hold fire, because if they start shooting at things they see, then we will be detected, which is tantamount to failure in this mission. Up in the top middle, there's my compass, and you can see that little bar underneath it tells me how my torso is pointed, because the legs and upper half, legs and torso, are independently controlled on these things, so you can run forward and still look around. Down at the bottom, far left, there's my battle mech readout. Just kind of tells me how my armor's doing. Anything I'm targeted gets the same thing up in the top right corner. I can also see what my enemies or friends are equipped with. Bottom middle is my radar mini-map, which you can also see. I've got the vision cone showing where my torso is pointed, and the arrow, dotted arrow there, tells me where my legs are pointed. I'm turning. And then in the bottom right is my equipment. And you'll notice there are two little crosshairs there. There's two crosshairs in the middle of the screen here as well. There's the little X and the little circle-ish. So those show me torso and arm weapons. So if I lock my torso in place here and look around, you see that the circle crosshair moves where I'm looking. The circle crosshair is my arm-mounted weapons, whereas that X is my torso-mounted weapons. Since the arms can move independently, I can shoot wherever I'm looking with my arm-mounted guns. Whereas, even if I'm over here, if I fire my torso weapon, it goes straight ahead. So that's just a little extra battlefield tactics there. I'm chasing after something that's moving fast, I might use my torso, or my arm weapon rather, because it moves a little faster than my torso does. And then, of course, I've got the ability to punch things as well, which is lovely. I think this is the first Battletech game, first Mechwarrior game that actually featured melee, and it's one of my favorite things. Alright, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started with this mission. Down there next to the compass, you can also see, or not compass, next to the radar at the bottom, you can see current throttle positions, my current heat output, which is that 3. See if I shoot my weapons, it shoots up. As that gets higher, it becomes harder to function. And then my jump jet fuel, which goes down as I use my jump jets.
Stay away from enemy units to remain undetected. Light mechs are much harder to detect. Command your lance to hold fire, as any attack will immediately raise an alarm. Our employer is also offering us a performance bonus if we can complete a number of sub-objectives, if they present themselves as targets of opportunity. Be on the lookout for them.
Alright, so those sub-targets are usually decently well-paying, but I don't need to be taking any unnecessary risks this early in the game.
Client's intel has identified an enemy mech undergoing field refits. We have a window to take it out before the enemy can respond. On your map, I've marked the location of some valuable supplies that our employer would like liberated. Our client would like us to scout the up-force battle mech forces while we're in the field. Attempt to sensor log each mech you come across without alerting them to your position.
Alright, so the unmanned mech mission I will not be doing, because I just have a pair of medium lasers, which is not enough to destroy a mech quickly.
New target, Blackjack.
I will try to target everyone. And I'm not going to get greedy. Usually with these steal the supplies. Crap, I'm already being detected by stuff. Usually with these steal the supplies sort of missions, it's
New target, Panther. Jump jet fuel low.
Alright. Slow down. Slow down. I'm not used to the speed and agility of these light mechs. Usually I don't mess with anything smaller than a medium. So
Target acquired.
you'll see here, if I shoot at this guy,
The target is calling for help, but is having trouble getting a signal out.
well, that was faster than I
Eliminate them
expected.
quickly.
I really should not have
You're
let
in
him
the
shoot me.
clear. No alarms raised.
So, I don't know if you saw it there, but when I first shot at him, the little skull appeared above him. That means that he's trying to call for help.
To try those out in the field.
Once that happens, you have a very limited time to destroy everyone who knows you're there. And if you can kill them before the alarm is raised, then the mission proceeds as normal. Otherwise, everybody converges on your location, and usually you're dead. I have never been able to survive that from happening. Like, when that happens, I die. Like, that's all there is to it. So I stole that one bit of supplies. Oh, shit. Get out of here. Having stolen that one thing of supplies, I can evac right now, but that's going to give me a very small payout. So I'm going to try to sneak around and sensor lock everyone else real quick. Get a little extra money here. I know there's another mech here, I just need to get close enough for him to show up so I can lock him.
New target,
There we go.
Urban Mech.
Now we come over here. Just kind of hug the front line here. careful about getting too close to that unmanned mech, because if I do approach it, then the game will actually remove my ability to withdraw until I destroy it. And like I said, where I'm at right now, I'm not going to be able to destroy it before it powers up. And once it powers up, it's going to absolutely mop the floor with me, because I took one medium laser and my armor is pretty heavily damaged. So if I get that mech to power up, I'm toast.
Target acquired. New target, Javelin.
Okay, so he's targeted.
Target acquired. Target destroyed.
Alright, so you see there's that thing, and then up in the top it had a
Target
cooldown
destroyed.
telling me how long I had before they called for help. So I might not be able to might not even be able to sensor lock all these damn opposing forces. So you'll see my friendly mechs running around like absolute madmen. They do not count as being detected. I don't know why that is. I think it's an oversight, but it is a very useful oversight, because they will run smack dab in front of enemy mechs. They do not understand the concept of stealth. Shoot.
Jet fuel low.
The way I'm going right now, I don't seem to understand the concept of stealth either.
New target, assassin.
Alright, so there's 3 more mechs out here somewhere. Probably not going to be over there.
Target acquired.
I'm really surprised there's only one right there. I thought I saw another pip show up though. Ah!
Target acquired. Jump jet fuel low.
Hostile mech spotted.
Alright. So there's only 2 left, which will probably be around another garrison of some sort. I can just find a way to sneak my way in.
Jump jet fuel
Crap, I
low.
was hoping to land on that little platform there. Jump jets are not the easiest thing to use. They give you a very slow forward speed, but it's not a whole lot. You also have to be careful
Tank spotted.
Jump
not
jet
to
fuel low.
use all of it. Oh, crap.
Target acquired.
Oh, crap. Alright, I gotta run. This whole damn garrison just noticed I was here, so I'm out. Taking a fair bit of damage. There's a whole pile of tanks coming after me, and if I can get out of here in 33 seconds, I can keep my stealth bonus, which, as fast as the spider is, should not be a problem. So we're gonna call this mission there. I don't know why part of that garrison was that far out from the rest of them, but that did not work out well for me. And I would have struggled to kill that many tanks with a pair of medium lasers. So, here we go, I'm done. I got some money, got some experience, which goes towards my reputation, and apparently I got an LRM-10. Not sure where that came from. So, here's the salvage that I can get. You see this LRM-10 costs 2 salvage shares, so if I was to take it, my 7 goes down to 5. And then I'll take these 2 guys as well. Even if I don't need them, I can always sell them. You see, it shows me what it is, how many of them I have currently. It's ordinarily sorted by value, so the most expensive stuff is at the top, and how many shares it's going to run. Down here will tell me the overall value of what I'm getting. And then just the, that, so I gained a little extra reputation with them, lost a little bit from them. Here's everything that happened. I did not destroy him, did not acquire those other 2 things, but everything else paid out. There's no way I took 500,000 worth of damage. Oh no, okay, had to scroll down. So yeah, I had $5,000, 500,000 C-bills worth of insurance, took 7,000 worth of damage, so they're paying me 7,000. So, made a tidy little sum. Riker got a little bit of damage, and then I took a decent amount of damage there. And then this just gives me the scoreboard here. I had 5 kills, 4 turrets, 1 vehicle, no mechs. And I took 11 damage, dealt 36 damage. So, and here we go back here. My pilot is out of the hospital now because 10 days have passed. Oh, and there's news. Bam. So this right here tells me, hey, superchargers are showing up everywhere, which just kind of makes the mech faster at the risk of damaging the internal parts. So we'll run over here real quick. I'll finish off this by showing, well, actually, yeah, okay, so we'll finish this off by showing the repairs here. For the spider, I will do a loadout repair. So if there was significant damage, I would come here to do the repairs. You see how it's showing, the armor points. I've got 5 out of 20, 21 out of 40, 7 out of 28. So I almost lost, well, didn't almost lose anything. None of my armor was penetrated, but if things are severely damaged, you can sort of modify stuff here. Like if the right arm was completely destroyed, obviously I'd have to be replacing my laser as well. So a lot of times, if it's completely destroyed, that's when it's a good time to go ahead and upgrade, because, hey, if I've got to replace the laser anyway, I may as well put a better one instead of the regular one, and then I have to strip it out and put a new one in anyway. So I just hit this repair all, or I could have used the little icons to repair it quickly. Start work. This tells me what they're doing. So in order to repair the 3 armor, it's going to cost 1,500 C-bills and take like not even a quarter of a day. And then, everything else here. And then it throws in the additional cost here. Extra cost and time. So all in all, it's going to cost me 8,000 to repair it, and it's going to take 2 days instead of the 1. Queue that up. The other way to repair mechs is just right click and hit repair, which is usually how I do it. And then there's also this repair all, which again, if I click that, it'll repair both of those. And you see now that I have work orders, here it is, just tells me what they are, how long they're going to take, and I can cancel them over here if I wanted to. So if, these are taking 2 days, if I had a 1-day mission and it like absolutely destroyed one of my other mechs, I could cancel one of these to save up a little money so I could repair the more important one. But that is the ins and outs of Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries. Hopefully after this video, anyone watching who's not familiar with the series can kind of go in with a little more knowledge of exactly what the hell is happening. But come back out here. Yeah, you can see there's the damage I was talking about. And armor's all tore up. So guys, I am going to call this video here. Finally, I've recorded this video no less than 5 different times over the course of 2.5 weeks. It's just been non-stop with problems. But I am calling the video complete. So I will be back, regularly scheduled, hopefully. As always, I try to upload my videos Mondays and Thursdays, so this should be going up on a Monday. I hope to have some videos queued up to upload while I'm at work. There might be a small gap. Obviously, I will try to keep everyone informed under the the community tab, if that should happen, but I hope to get a couple of videos recorded and backlogged, that way they can upload while I'm unavailable. But for now, thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.